People who want to learn Chinese always ask themselves the same question: traditional or simplified? Which system should I learn? In this video, I'm going to break down their differences, their unique nuances and histories, and settle once and for all: should you learn traditional or simplified Chinese? Contrary to many people's expectations, whether you use simplified or traditional Chinese, it does not affect the spoken language at all, only how the characters look in the written form. Traditional characters, or 繁体字, sometimes known as 整体字, are most commonly used in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, and also many overseas Chinese communities. While simplified characters, or 简体字, are most commonly used in mainland China, Singapore, Malaysia, and also some overseas communities due to more recent migration from mainland China. Mao Zedong and the Chinese Communist Party officially established simplified characters in the mid-1950s through 1960s. Their primary goal was to increase literacy across China. Before 1949, the year that the People's Republic of China was established, around 400 million of China's over 500 million population were illiterate, meaning that only 20% of China's population was literate. This problem was even worse for rural populations, where reports show up to 95% illiteracy in rural areas. The CCP blamed traditional characters for this crisis. They claimed that their complexity was the reason for China's illiteracy. Contrary to what many critics of simplified characters say, the CCP didn't just create the characters out of thin air. The majority of simplified Chinese characters come from three sources, using existing vulgar variants of characters, some dating back to ancient China in the Qin dynasty, adapting cursive forms of characters into modern Chinese, taking radicals or parts of the character and just simplifying them. Some of the pros of simplified characters are: they're easier to write as there are fewer strokes, more accessible as most modern Chinese media is using simplified characters. Also, readability. There's less visual clutter, so this can be advantageous for small screens or when quality is low. Some of the cons of simplified are: there's usually less meaning, as during simplification, sometimes logical or semantic components of the character were lost. Also, multiple traditional characters with distinct meanings were often simplified into a single character, so there's usually more context required when using simplified Chinese. Some people see that there's a lower aesthetic appeal for simplified Chinese, considered less artistic and less used in traditional artistic mediums. Alright, now let's move on to traditional characters. Traditional Chinese characters have been used in China for over 2,200 years, first appearing in the 200s BC in the Han Dynasty. These characters were known as clerical script, or 隶书. This would later develop into regular script, or 楷书, which is what we currently understand as traditional characters. The pros of traditional characters are cultural and historical connections, as they preserve the original forms and meanings of the characters, providing deeper insight into Chinese culture, history, and literature. Also, there is more meaning in the construction of the character. Radicals often add to the character's meaning rather than just being a pure sound component, as it is mostly in simplified Chinese. Also, traditional is more favored for calligraphy, art, and traditional texts. Some of the cons of traditional Chinese are: usually it takes a lot more time to write the characters, as they are a high number of strokes, making it more time consuming. Also, there's a steeper learning curve. With more strokes and complexity, it makes them harder to learn for a lot of beginners. You know how I said that traditional Chinese characters were not used in mainland China? Well, that's not exactly true. Although most of the text in mainland China is written in simplified, you will still see traditional characters being used. The PRC hasn't formally banned traditional characters for public use. Many buildings that predate the simplification process still bear these traditional characters, like old government buildings, religious centers, educational institutions like many universities, and a lot of historical monuments. Also, many brands choose to use traditional characters for more of an ancient or antique feel. The thing is, we also do the same thing in America. Many restaurants and old pubs that want to have a more old-timey feeling might use older spellings of words or in their marketing. Like you might have seen Ye Old Tavern. It's kind of the same thing. To be honest, it's not entirely clear. Most people will tell you that Simplified is easier to learn, but it really boils down to how you learn. Simplified usually gives you faster early progression, but as you progress, similar characters start to blur, and it can actually be a little bit of a hindrance for many people. But while learning Traditional, you may start off slower, but you will gain stronger long-term recognition and meaning-based guessing ability, whereas Simplified offers better sound-based guessing ability. I started my Mandarin learning journey learning Simplified, but once I went to Taiwan, I switched to Traditional. I had a hard time getting over that initial learning curve, but once I was past it, my ability to understand and guess the new meanings of characters became a lot easier. When choosing between Simplified and Traditional Chinese, consider what you plan to do with your Mandarin. If you plan to work or live in China, use Chinese social media, or take the HSK test, you should choose Simplified Chinese. But if you plan to work or live in Taiwan, Hong Kong, or Macau, and care more about culture, history, or literature, you should choose Traditional Chinese. The goal for your language learning journey should be application in daily life. So choosing a system that integrates into yours is key. In theory, you could learn both, but I do not recommend doing it simultaneously. If you plan to learn both, I recommend starting with Traditional, then moving to Simplified. Many characters do overlap between Simplified and Traditional, so whichever one you choose, you will end up picking up a lot of recognition of the other. Most native speakers of Chinese, whether they learn Traditional or Simplified growing up, can usually have no problem reading texts in the other system. In the debate between learning Simplified and Traditional Chinese, two claims always arise. Advocates for learning Simplified often claim that Traditional is outdated and useless, while defenders of Traditional say that Simplified has scrubbed away all the meaning from Chinese characters, erasing thousands of years of culture and ruining Chinese. The reality is, Traditional and Simplified Chinese are both valid. What should matter more are your language learning goals and how you plan to use the language in the future. Don't ask which system is better, ask where you're going and what you want to gain from learning Chinese. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm curious, are you planning on learning Simplified or Traditional Chinese? Please tell me in the comments below. Also, if you want to see if Taiwanese people can actually read Simplified Chinese, I made a video right here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. 再见!